How many angles do I have? I don't know if I would have done. I immediately got that, didn't improve my side.
Okay, so I have it working on my phone. I have to send everyone a new link though, so I need your help to prop this somehow.
Okay, let's slide this table over. I don't know how wide it's gonna be. Like,
It's
put it near my camera?
live right now, yep. What about this table?
I can slide this way.
Okay.
There, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I remember just sitting outside the Senate, which was kind of nice, when you do my own office in my house. All the people
Is this screen on? I can set my case up.
Okay. Yep. Might be a little too low, but. Are you able to still record?
Yep.
Okay.
I got levels in the page.
Did I miss on something? I'm going to turn the projector off.
Oh. It says it will turn off in 3 minutes.
Oh, it does? Well, it's going to have to sit like that.
that way, and I don't go to St. Paul naturally. Right. That's one why you see the Catholics. Their eyes are still dancing out there, so yeah, this was kind of very big. Yeah, so I'm going to see that obviously yesterday, but then I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out, I volunteered to serve.
I need to figure out how to rotate it. Guess we can't, because it's going to have to be like this.
It doesn't rotate?
No. Orientation is locked. That's why.
Who else is in out of mine?
Tom in the blue, and then Sean. Yep. Online.
Is it live? Doesn't matter to me whatever the connection is. Is it live from there or there? Who's out? It's live on the phone. And then I'll just. And then we just walk around.
Yeah, we're using my phone as backup. Yep. I don't know why it says orientation is locked. It's too bad.
Is it on?
Check it off there. Something in the app, maybe.
They're the only government officials that are really, yeah, right. I mean, you have the sheriffs down there, you have the cities, you got all kinds of people capital, but they're not really there. You don't know what you get up to.
And then do you want to get them the handhelds?
Good or bad. This is a lot. I mean, not like what happened.
Yeah, for those who are more like.
And then you make those stuff. Okay, one.
Okay.
Survey me, do all these things.
Got it.
So, yeah, okay, you done. So then like,
Church, everybody.
Yeah.
Looks like, if you look at indication level, complete or Next shift, right? So we're six, yeah, same here. There's six, so we got six, you got the ones that are up there, and there's one is OPAS.
Yep.
So that's up, so five is up, which is Jeff Good's help with Randy Johnson's for medium.
Yep.
If we split a city, very, so we have split.
They've just done a really good job.
So you get all of the golden triangle of the greater, the fertile crescent is what I call it. Mesopotamia, Egypt, and then you guys have CD3 is the most whatever educated district. District 6 is the fertile crescent. Capture my dynamic.
Business friendly.
Yeah, more, right.
Business centric.
A lot of business activities need to generate it out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, all of his successes.
Yeah.
Really does care about building regional approach.
He used to be the one I'll miss the most.
Yeah.
I probably interacted with him because of my downtown where I was with him.
Yeah.
The Twin Stadium, which I got kind of sucked into, the music side, but there's a civic thing, and I'm like, oh, no tax effect.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and we finally got it was more reasonable, and then having the transportation assets just politically that should. Yeah, Mike, who's running? Up there is Jeff Lundy, who's the mayor of the largest city, that's kind of larger than life, Jeff Lundy, the regular Joe. And then another county employee, and later on, county employees who work.
See something that was totally
Inside job.
Okay.
All GFL
I would rather have it worded in one right. So if somebody's got their microphone in the wrong spot, okay, somebody needs to hold it up. I mean, I'm very common if we walk right up and say, just put it closer. It's already lower recording or
Oh,
something.
three, yeah, we'll tell us read.
Oh, that's
Totally
that's
fine.
yeah.
Okay, sound good. Sure, yeah.
That was just the first.
Yeah, don't feel bad about it if they listen. Okay, yeah, I'll let you know if anything seems off. Suggestions, somebody needs to move. Hopefully I hear you, so.
And now you're.
I think right now we're looking good.
We're at 0 now at state or Danny's basis and Jeff Johnson chief of staff, so he really knows what's going on. He's a guy that figures it out, and now you've got people that are, they're definitely like, more like the city council. If I say that always in a good way.
Maybe the city council like really just now.
Yeah, well, no, it's, they're agitated and progressive, it's not.
It's just, it's a little different though, I mean.
Well, that's actually when Lisa Goodman would be our business groups to downtown office. You know what, gentlemen, I'm your Republican, I'm a sneaker liberal. So she, I just love Lisa, it's like, it's kind of true.
It is true.
There's a couple minutes before we go around.
Okay.
I don't know, would it be helpful, just a small group, just to kind of go around and see who everybody is, maybe get a familiarity with who they
Yeah,
are.
for sure, the mask thing, always makes me happy.
Matt, do you want to start us off?
Sure, I'm actually Willis, I was last.
Where are your offices?
Normandale is.
Where do you go?
Where do you reside? I live in St. Louis.
I'm Christine Blinn, I'm Fishing Turtle. We have offices all over Montana, Seattle, Denver, and I've been with for like years. I've been attending events. Stuff, but yeah.
You introducing yourself, I couldn't hear a word.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I will do it all over just for you. I am Christine Blumen, and I'm with Cushing Terrell Architects Engineers. We have offices all over the western U.S. And I'm new to the industry, so I've been with the company for about a year, which means I've been engaged with NAIOP for the last year.
What is your role?
Regional Director of Business Development.
I'm Kevin Howard. I'm fairly recently appointed public policy. Tony to help carry forward some important initiatives that we have does with the legislature. And also spend a lot of time working with the members to contribute to the funds that we use to help carry out our advocacy efforts.
What is your background?
other than that?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I've been in commercial real estate for 30 years. I continue to do property management and asset management. So when I'm talking to folks, I'm actually in their shoes. I'm out every day battling for tenants, fighting costs, working with government regulations just like everybody else. So I kind of talk from a position of knowledge and experience with everybody else.
And I'm not doing this just a pregame or just to,
Good, yeah.
allow us, just kind of how to help the interaction, so. Joe Weiss.
Morning, my name is Joe Weiss. I was formerly with Weiss Builders for like 7 years, and I figured that was enough of that, so, my sons have been running the company more recently, and did much better with it than I did. I'm pleased to announce that I have a grandson, Weiss, that is now taking over, as of the 16th of October. One of my sons will be remaining, but Jay is going to be kind of retiring. So I started another little company called Joseph Development, and we dabble in trying to do affordable housing projects. So that keeps me a little busy.
Joe, do you follow politics at all, or do you know anything about the Minnesota legislature? Do you have any political positions? Are you active in following politics?
That could be a meeting.
I'm a political junkie.
I think I knew that. Good. How are we feeling, Adam and Reagan? Do you want to give a little more time to let people connect to it and all, or do you feel like it's happening?
We've got 11 watching right now, so you can go ahead and get started.
Yep, go ahead.
Do you want me to address, just give it one more minute?
Sure. Yeah, just use the mic and, yep.
We're still pretty close to time, and then Tom, Sean, you'll be introducing yourself as you talk, so.
Is it live right now?
Yep.
I just want to welcome everyone who is in the virtual lobby, I guess you could say. We've got a few of us that are physically here in attendance, and we're going to give it one more minute before we start, so you're certainly in the right place.
I assume you're chair of the August group?
No, it certainly looked like that in this position here. No, I'm more like chum. Just like fish chum, just to get it going a little bit. I am a commercial real estate owner. I used to have a business called Fine Line Bistro Cafe in downtown Minneapolis. I'm a former state representative. I'm a current candidate for Hennepin County Commissioner in District 6, which is just south of here, Minnetonka, Diana, Lake Minnetonka.
Good luck with your race.
Thank you. It's been lots of fun campaigning in the year 2020. It's something I'll never forget. But I do enjoy campaigning, so for some strange reason.
Well, who is chairman?
Right here, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Been a few years now, and we're all adjusting to this new virtual and online and everything else, so.
Way better than a Zoom call. Zoom in, which is what I found. Yeah.
Well, it is time to get going, and we will get this started here. Welcome everyone to our kickoff NAIOP public policy meeting for this legislative year. We have both physical attendees here. We've got about 6 or 7 people here that are attending, and most of you are watching or viewing this online. I did want to thank, before we start, the NAIOP staff. Both Tony and Reagan do just a tremendous job, and this hybrid of in-person and online seems to be really working, and what a studio that we have behind us, I guess you could say. So, you know, we are definitely in the throes of political season here, and we're going to try our best to just add more fuel to the fire today with our guest, Dario Anselmo, and Tom will be talking about that. But before we get that underway, I did want to note that in our audience, we have representatives from our penny per square foot contributors, and we've got Frau and Shoe Companies, McGough, Opus, Wildemere, and if I missed anyone else, Tony, I'm sure you'll let me know. But thank you very much for your continued efforts and really your funds as well that help drive this program and help us really advocate at the Capitol. And I would say we're going to continue to reach out to more people with Kevin Howitt, and with that, I'm going to give it to Kevin to talk about one of our next events that he will be running. Kevin?
Thanks, Sean. I want to echo Sean's appreciation and acknowledgement of the penny per square foot fund contributors that are in attendance, but are also even not attending, are contributing and supporting our organization, in particular our advocacy efforts with the legislature and other places to help promote commercial real estate and commercial real estate's interests. We've made a lot of success through those partnerships and through the funds that have been raised. Big impacts in property taxes that affect commercial real estate in recent years. As we are all aware, there will be impacts and challenges to state and local taxes and tax base in the coming year or two, if not longer. And so many of those gains may be under attack again in the upcoming legislative sessions. And so continuing support of the penny per square foot fund and our advocacy efforts are more important than ever. I just appreciate your continued support of that. I want to also promote an upcoming event on October 21st with Matt Schneider from Willis, the Willis insurance firm will be joining me and making a presentation on another cost that's affecting us to an even greater extent than many of us may understand. Insurance is one of those items that may sound boring, but it's one of those important items that we oftentimes feel we have no control over. We have more control perhaps than we think, and it's important that we learn more about that now, because we're now in the worst insurance buying market in probably 40 years. Insurance rates are going up dramatically. There are a lot of different reasons for that. This is a trend that actually began about 2 years ago, but it's accelerating significantly now. And it's oftentimes people in commercial real estate think that insurance is one of those things we have to deal with. We just plug it into our budget, we take what our insurance brokers have given to us, and we just pass it on to our tenants or eat it as a company and just move forward. That's going to be a much more painful proposition now. And there are ways that you can address the increases. There are ways you can to deal with them and manage them. And it's more important than ever that you know about it. So we're encouraging you to consider joining us on October 21st at a roundtable that Matt and I will be moderating and presenting information about why these rates are going up, what you can do about them, and not only help your owners, help your properties, but help your tenants as well, because they're facing exactly the same market. So we look forward to seeing you. Matt and I are going to make this insurance topic fun for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. With this next season, you'll be receiving some Outlook updates from NAIOP staff, just setting on your calendar the schedule of public policy meeting just to make it convenient for everyone. I guess with that, we'll start with our meet. We've been doing part of what we've been doing here at NAIOP recently, and this pandemic has kind of given us some time to focus on some new research initiatives. And while Kevin mentioned insurance, taxes are also a big part. And the headlines are all political, but we are all in budget season right now, whether you're a business, vendor, or you actually own commercial real estate. I did want to reference a document that we put together with the help of, or created by Tom Freeman and Fagery Drinker, just a little taste of where levies are being set from local governments. And so you can see on this chart that both Hennepin and Ramsey County are proposing or have already set their budgets at 0. St. Paul as well. And then as we go through the list of kind of metro areas, and then Rochester as well, it is at 0. But this just kind of gives you that. From the other portion of commercial real estate, you know, we've done a really good job in the past 5, 6, 7 years fending off some threats on that state general levy. I don't, that overall percentage should be negative, just given the fact that we've added more properties to that pool. So between that, these local government proposals, in this pandemic, I am actually surprised that I think we should have. I think it's reasonable for property owners to expect a slight increase, not a large increase. So, and then for those of you that they've also put together specific school district levies. I won't get into that in the advent of time, but what a great way to transition to Tom. And before I do that, Tony, we have a great transition piece that's actually a physical piece that I wanted to give Tom. And I want him to look at the wrapping paper on that because it's very timely. And so I will, so Tom, if you could go ahead and open the top of that. Dario and Selmo is on the wrapping paper, and so is Hopkins School Board levy.
Oh, proverbial football.
Yeah, so I am handing off the reins to you, but we are thankful for Tom's service. Tom recently was married, and for all, I think all of those type of celebrations are good to step back and say thanks. So what a celebration, and with that, Tom, the ball's in your hands.
Wow. Thanks, Sean. Wow, that's pretty good. I don't know where you found that shopper guide to get some Dario plug in there. That's pretty good. Want to thank Donovan Hurd from our team who helped put together the local government document. I think Kevin asked me to just cover that, you know, historically these increases are pretty low, which is a good sign that county governments and local governments are recognizing the constraints that people in our industry are in. And so I'll just cover two quick things before we get to the big bulk of the meeting. One, the governor called a special session for Monday. This is primarily to continue to extend his emergency powers in addressing the pandemic. I don't think there's going to be a deal on bonding or taxes. So if you remember from the last time we had a virtual Zoom meeting, there was a small agreement that was made by legislative leaders on some conformity issues. I don't believe that everybody has signed off on that, as that's kind of subject to an agreement on a bonding bill. So stay tuned. As everybody knows, a lot can change in 72 hours with the legislature. So hopefully they can get something done this weekend to try and find some compromise. There's a lot of investment that could be made in affordable housing and also in different state buildings and asset protection in the bonding bill. So, and then the other document that we sent out was a document that our team helped put together that really sets the stage for the state general election here that's coming up. And just giving you an idea of the makeup of the House of Representatives, the Senate, the congressional races, and giving you a flavor of, you know, kind of some of the seats that, you know, where the governor may have won, but the president also won, or vice versa. And so take a look at that at your leisure. Happy to answer questions about it as well. But I have the privilege of introducing Dario and Selma, who I know quite well from time at the legislature. You know, I think this is a unique opportunity for NAIOP members to engage with somebody who will impact a lot of business owners in his future work at Hennepin County. But Dario is I believe a former member, maybe even a current member. We'll have to check his dues. But he certainly knows a lot about commercial real estate, and we're excited to have him here, and I'll just let him introduce himself. I will kind of act as moderator for some questions. If you have questions, I think it's possible to submit those through the virtual room, and Reagan will pass those on to me. So I'll kick it over to Dario Anselmo, my good friend, and tell us about why you're running. Give us your elevator speech.
Great. I'm running, and I should maybe say what I did before, which gives people some context here that I used to have a computer company when I was 21 in Edina. So I started a business really early, moved on from that to take over a music club in Minneapolis called the Fine Line Music Cafe. I tell people I actually moved to take over part of the real estate, and I got part of the club with it. The only problem with owning 25% of the club is somebody who owned all of it. Now, unfortunately, it was an exciting place to work, more exciting for maybe me than it was for other people at times, hosting people like Prince or Lady Gaga or Alanis Morissette. You know, it was interesting, but we were also right in the middle of the commercial corridor, so a lot of pitfalls and problems that came for that. Ended up starting the business association, some of the restaurateurs there to fight for things like public safety, work with some of the business organizations like your group and the Downtown Council, whose board I served on, try to help us with things like property taxes and sort of real estate related besides public safety and the whole quality of life issues to make it so we could run our businesses down there. I ran for the state house and was served in the state legislature representing Edina for a few years. I've been around the political space for a long time. I'm out of that business now. I own commercial, retail, and a little bit of multifamily real estate in partnerships or holds. So I'm very much invested in this industry and in this space. You know, I'm running for head of the county commissioner, allegedly because it's a nonpartisan position. I was a very moderate, maybe progressive Republican. I seem to make everyone a little bit of unhappy, and I hopefully made my constituents, more happy in terms of trying to get stuff actually done. Partisan politics is about as much fun as it seems. It's easier being a Vikings fan, and that's why my colors are red and blue. I'm a Vikings fan. It does make purple. It's two teams working together, Republican and Democrat, for solutions. So when the opportunity for the seat to come up did, and it doesn't usually happen, most county commissioners go there and stay there for 20 years on average, sometimes up to 30. I won't do that, but I wanted to do that. Unfortunately, when I hopped into the race, there was a Republican and a Democrat in there. I was able to beat the Republican out. There were 6 candidates, and here I am. But I'm there to advocate for public safety, for your property taxes being kept in line, making sure our infrastructure investments are taken care of, and an important social service issue for me is mental health services. It's one of those things that Hennepin County does work with, in fact, more work with than I was able to do with the capital. I served on a couple education committees, an environment and natural resources committee, and I fought for business issues and public safety issues, but mental health was sort of the missing link for me. It's an important service, it's an important issue to me, and it should be to our community. So that'll be one of the other issues I will be championing. It's on my list of 6 things to work on and 6 more to think about.
Great, thanks Dario, I really appreciate it.
It's a long elevator ride.
Was just gonna start with, is this thing working? What is this? No. The first technical difficulties.
Speaker?
Yeah, that's good.
Blue rubber.
Just bear with us here. If you can hear me on the, does your mic work? Oh,
Can you hear me?
no.
No.
It's gonna be loud.
Just rebooting the computer since you're not working.
Your intro was so good that it just shut down the technology.
Yeah.
There's about, you're saying you don't see any action on the budget when they meet on Monday?
Not on Monday, no. They're still trying to sort out a lot of the differences between,
Did you say a virtual meeting?
so they will meet in person, but they do have virtual voting, in the House. Senate kind of puts people in different rooms, and and then they, excuse me, they then go down to the floor to vote at different times, so they're not all in one place. But the House actually has, it's almost like a conference call, if you can believe it. So they read off, the chief clerk reads off the name, the legislator says their name and where they're from, and then you gave your name. I can tell you, each recorded vote in the House takes over 7 minutes. I mean, it is a complete, I mean, how else are you supposed to do it? But it is a long period of time, that's for sure.
So the whole voting,
Yeah.
my kids came down when I was first sworn in, and you, of course, have a whole roll call, you swear everyone in, and they never want to come back after that. It was painful. Now I see them do it in pods, because I'll see like, Heather and my replacement there, and actually everyone's a group of people with masks, so they're kind of hanging out and doing it sort of. It was like the countdown for some special event.
So true that absent microphones, there's no audio to that.
I can hear it here. It's
So-
just the room.
And there too?
Well, so they're in their, it'll be the room.
Or,
So
if I
what
went-
we hear
if I
is
went-
what they'll hear, kind of.
Okay,
So
wouldn't be that bad, right? I mean, if they went forward right now,
Yeah.
without that working,
yeah,
well, would we have audio for people?
they would just be a little quieter for these.
But it'd still be here, probably.
Yeah. There we go.
Mine's working.
Okay.
This, yep.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna shut that off. Is it on? All right, sorry about that. Is there a way to turn the volume down a little bit? It sounds like pretty loud. Otherwise I can really talk down here. Thanks for bearing with us with the technical difficulties. Obviously, first time for everything with the dual format. We should come up with a good phrase for this. So Dario, I was going to kick it off from a question standpoint. I think as it relates to, especially with your experience downtown, you know, spanning quite a time frame, not to age you at all, but you've seen a lot of changes in public safety issues from a downtown community standpoint. I think for those of us that have been, especially for us, you know, our offices are downtown in the core of the city. You know, we haven't been in them since March, but I think a lot of us, you know, read reports or read Twitter, and there's not a lot that, you know, makes a whole lot of sense because it's coming from all different angles. But can you talk about, you know, what your vision is for public safety as it relates to downtown? You know, obviously the civil unrest and things like that have, you know, there's a lot of different facets to that, but just, I think there are property owners, property managers, employees that are all kind of concerned about what does downtown look like from a safety perspective when we do return to work.
Yeah, I've seen it, and thank you for slowly aging me. I feel like when I'm down there, I'm fastly aging, I'm like with the capital, it's a rapid aging. So, but I started first going down in the 1980s, I remember the movie, when Prince's movie, he made down in Purple Rain in 1984. And the warehouse district was what you would have thought it was, and the North Loop wasn't the North Loop, and Hennepin Avenue and sort of the Nicola Mall was where the activity was. And when you started getting more activities down there with the stadiums and ballparks getting into the restaurants, you know, a lot of life started coming down there, and people started moving down there. And I said, you know, Minneapolis just always needs that density. And I've always said this from a public safety standpoint. You know, New York, Chicago, any of these other cities, I'll use New York as the best example, there's a lot of bad people over there. There are just way more good people. And that's what's so tough in Minnesota. When you can go back out to the suburbs or you can stay up in the skyways, it's tough to get enough people there to make that all work. And that's the challenge for retail. It's the challenge for people that are going to be down there in office and living. So we need to see that change. You know, the Minneapolis Police Department is largely in charge of what happens on the ground. But in your transportation zones, which is another thing indirectly that comes to Hennepin County, we pay for things like light rail. But you need to make those transit zones safe for your workers. And that's patrolled and policed by the Met Council. And so that's a different entity. I'm a block away from the light rail, so that's kind of how I see all of that. don't have a bus stop anywhere near us, and those are challenges. So we need to make sure that that Hennepin County handling the public safety part is really a backup function of sort. They do a lot of stuff when they further excerpts in terms of actual policing, but they're there where the jail is. I mean, that's what runs the judicial system. So it's a $400 million budget, and they have been there for backup, and they've been called in the summer to help out. But chief speed is what it was called before, and that's something I'd like to see be done again. As a person who's actually lived down there, even though I'll represent the suburbs, we need to make everyone feel safer. And I think the sheriff's department could play a role in that, but we don't want Minneapolis to abdicate their role, because that's just not going to be a healthy relationship.
Awesome, thank you. And I'll just remind folks that online, if you want to send in a question, please do, and Reagan will pass those on. The big issue we fight, and we've talked about this at the legislature with various members, is property taxes. Hennepin County has a significant role in that, and obviously we talked a little bit about their, their levy being, passed at a zero increase, which is great news given what's going on. But just talk about what you see going forward from a development standpoint, what we can do to further develop Hennepin County, and where you think we should go from there.
And it's great to see the budget actually out. One of my top things is property taxes. It's not really a great thing to go talk to people about, because it doesn't seem like it's that much exciting unless you're in commercial real estate, because it's a slice of your business. And I was kind of being told, well, tap that down, don't talk about that too much. And it was more insider stuff. I'm like, well, we need to keep property taxes from going up so much, because housing affordability is one of the big issues you hear about out there. And that's a huge expense. And it's always a big expense for people running offices. And when people can now shift how and where they office, it's going to be another big factor that people are going to take a look at. Minneapolis is going to need to be competitive, which is what's inside of Hennepin County. But I think there's still opportunities down there. I say that you're going to still need office spaces. They're just be used differently. Just like the retail space too. But we need to make the retail area feel safer. That's where public safety is going to tie into it. In the budget for Hennepin County, it's $2.5 billion. It's a lot of money. It's the second largest unit of government that no one knows about. In fact, if you took that plus the operating entity of HCMC that Hennepin County is responsible for, it'd be the 45th largest state budget in the country. So that's how big it is. Hennepin County's got 1/5 of the population of the state, and it's got 1/3 of the jobs are generated out of Hennepin County. So a huge impact, hence all of this stuff that goes on here. The public safety piece of it is about 15%. So it's a small percentage. It's a really important thing, but we need to make sure those investments in transportation, transit, and public safety are made, so the developers in the market can do what they want. Unlike maybe some other government type people, I'm not going to tell the market, the developers, what to do. I think they can figure it out. I see online at least a couple of my friends on there, Carl Lunk and Steve Waite, and hopefully my broker, Mike Doyle, is not, because I'll try to lease one of my spaces. But they're good. Yeah, but I want to encourage those partnerships. I mean, Hennepin County is involved in workforce development of a sort, and that's really important on the trade side, which helps you build projects more affordably and on time. So we need to get really creative on the government side, innovate, partner, and use those relationships, and maybe be talking to the real estate people a little more of what's going on, as opposed to some grand vision that someone has who hasn't spent a day in the private sector. So.
Well, it's funny, Carl's hot to get in your kitchen here. He wants a detailed answer, probably 8-page symposium. No, I'm kidding. But Carl from your good friend from Ryan Companies asked, since Dario is a former legislator and is currently running for Hennepin County Commissioner, we'd love to hear his ideas on how he can support real estate growth in that capacity. He mentions Hennepin County led Target Field's creation and owns significant land holdings along Southwest Light Rail and issuing bonds for workforce housing, etc. They can catalyze and support growth as much, if not more, than any municipal government in the state. And just want to see if you want to expound on that. Thanks, Carl, for the question. It's a great question.
Good question. I served on a board with Carl and appreciated his perspective and all the stuff that goes on. There's a couple of things I guess what Hennepin County does do. I look at it for the transit-oriented development. So, light rail is paid for by you, Hennepin County taxpayers, and whatever your capacity is. I get paid for it a couple different ways. And I'll sit on the Regional Rail Authority, would be one of those committees I would look to hop on to, that will play a little bit of a role there. Once it's done, it kind of gets turned over to the Met Council, and they're in charge. And I've got a get on the building vault, but make sure they keep it safe, because your employees, your family members are not gonna take public transportation. What happens to people in Minneapolis at certain locations keeps happening. Now, they're getting that, they're fixing that, but I want people to be proactive, not reactive, and that's so often what happens in government. So we need to get ahead, we need to think like people like that. So, as I see it happening, I'm a stone's throw away from Hopkins. I live in western Indiana. I always take the light rail, I go down the Lake Road by Pizza Luce. There's also a bike trail there too. I can take that to go to the work, which I've done. So that'll be our location. There'll be a few more of those locations. It's great to see some of the real estate development that's happening down there. Seagorn Properties has their project down there. Obviously, a lot of talk about the United Healthcare. So that sort of development opportunity out of a $2 billion project, the private sector stuff is the things that really do excite me. And workforce housing bonds, that'll be important. I advocated for those when I was at the Capitol. We play a supportive role in that, but it really is state money. Arguably, a lot of that state money happens because of Hennepin County activities and investments. I mean, we are, in effect, the economic breadbasket for the state and for the region. So as Hennepin County goes, so goes your community. Really, so goes the Upper Midwest. And that's why it's so important to do it right and to get the right people. There's only 7 people there, and about maybe one of them has had some private sector background. You don't have to be, running your own TV show, The Apprentice, to know how to run government. I'm not sure that's always ideal. But you should have some inclination to do it, or you should at least ask more questions so you can do it right.
Yeah. You never want to ask a question you don't know the exact answer to when you're moderating a panel. But do you know what for those on the line, when would like the first train actually be operating in Southwest? Do we have a date for that yet?
You want to ask a question that I don't even know?
This wasn't prepped by the campaign.
2023 was the number that I was looking at. And then there's the next piece of, and maybe that's a question that Carl was additionally looking at for a follow-up would be, what about Botno? Because we know Southwest Light Rail is happening. I remember reading the original documents for it, and I was an advocate, albeit like a lot of things, reluctant, spending money, other people's money. I was an elected official at that time. When we first met with Governor Ventura, when I was part of the downtown council, I don't know why they thought they brought me down there. Probably because I would find my his cafe, and Jesse would come down there. And he was an interesting guy to meet and deal with. But the whole idea of these investments made sense, getting workers to and from. I don't think even the development piece was talked about as much, and that was the part that was exciting. And now seeing Southwest Light Rail happen, leveraging those federal dollars, and building for a workforce for the future. And we have to keep those things in mind. A lot of times our planners say, they go to Copenhagen and they think that's where we live. I go, no, we don't. We live like in a colder Fargo with cooler stuff. So that's the reality. We're still gonna have cars, and maybe it'll be battery operated. Who knows how they're gonna get around? We need to supplement those things. But Botno was the one that probably made the most sense, that kind of connected you from North Minneapolis, through what ends up in Brooklyn Park. A lot of jobs. And people that don't have maybe the transportation options we have in the Southwest border. So, that's something I would like to see us work on, dollars and feasibility, to keep that in mind. It's another development opportunity.
Yeah. And for those in the room, Joe, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I had a question. A recent article in the Star Tribune talked about the huge absence of office workers in the downtown area and the economic effect it's had on transit, restaurants, you name it. Any idea when people might move back into downtown?
I knew that one. Well, yeah, I think that the more the people can actually wear these will help. And safe behavior and safe contact will help it. Right now the governor gets to weigh in that in our state, and that's difficult and frustrating. I still own a piece of real estate that has the Fine Line Music Cafe in it, which is owned by First Avenue. So, we're having that discussion of how much rent you pay or when you're gonna pay it. Property taxes are coming up here in a couple of days, and the banks are being flexible to everyone. And I know so many people that are in those scenarios. But yeah, it's really hard. If you're in the pizza business, you're probably doing okay. If you're a white tablecloth restaurant, you've probably gone away. And what about all these entertainment options, which is why people kind of want to be in the Twin Cities. So I don't know how much longer we can go when there's baby clothing charge working on some federal legislation. My local state rep is going to be looking at it to see what we can do to help out, to lights on to keep these businesses in place. But yeah, with 15% sort of real occupancy is the number that I hear. In my building, you know, it's hard to judge it because a lot of our people have offices in Berlin or in London, you know, same thing, but they've already been working remotely. I mean, those technology investments in properties, if you've made those, you're looking pretty brilliant. Because it really does make it easier, because now they can come down and they have space. So I'd say they're in need office space, it's just they're gonna need more space for less employees or they're gonna shift it. But if they don't, yeah, it's pretty easy just to stay in Edina or Minnetonka or anywhere in my district and, you know, go in, you know, once or twice a week, which is what I do, get in, get out, do your stuff, don't stay after 10, or 6, or whatever it may be. So we need to change the public safety reality. And Paradigm, I was down there the other day, and it didn't feel good at one place. Ironically, the warehouse district had seen so many things going on, it's actually the calmest and safest place. They need to fix some of these other areas, and they're gonna have to engage with people and do things. But until the governor allows us to get to a certain point, the health data drives them there, and people with personal responsibility, business people, I think, get that. You know, there's some strain in between there that doesn't want to do it, and those people don't really want to come downtown either, so I don't know what it's gonna take.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're gonna see, the legislature is gonna have the same problems this session in terms of trying to determine where we go from here. Tony, do you wanna? I don't have any good Jeopardy music. I'm sorry, folks. Making sure we get this good. But yeah, what I was saying is I think the legislature will struggle with that as well. For those on the committee and attend our events regularly, you know, we're trying this format today. I think we're gonna see how this works. We'd love your feedback as well for those that are virtual, to share that with Tony and Reagan. You know, the legislature has not even started to look at how they're gonna conduct their operations next session in a virtual setting. They clearly made some changes. It worked for some, it really didn't work for others, and they're trying to figure out what the right approach to that will be. But in thinking, you know, you talked a little bit about housing, and I think there's a lot of people on the committee that see housing, you know, differently, and there's a lot of development opportunities, and the warehouse district and the North Loop has kind of seen that first wave. Do you see a second wave of those investments coming in Hennepin County, and talk a little bit about your approach or your views on what the county can do from a housing development standpoint?
Well, I think there's an opportunity, and I think of, you know, the river development that people have been working on and seeing some of that, and even another, you know, music-related project. Not that has to drive everything, and that is a challenge over in North Minneapolis with what's going on there. But, you know, we have an underutilized, you know, wonderful piece of real estate with the Mississippi River, and I think those are our prime areas. Besides, you know, Minneapolis changing their zoning and sort of more mini multifamily, as I look at it, opportunities in neighborhoods. You know, that's its own little political quagmire of sort. But when you look at stuff at scale, and maybe people are gonna come back and look at the suburbs. I know that, you know, Edina was doing a comp plan, and some people were looking at big projects there. In fact, Carl was looking at one there. It was more difficult. So maybe the inner ring metro is gonna look at those opportunities, because, you know, people do like access to their city or to their airport. They just may see more downfall or challenges with being downtown with all that. And I don't think, you know, developers really care where they develop real estate. They just want to develop it. The city should care, and they should care about the businesses, because, you know, businesses pay 60% of Minneapolis's operating costs. So that unit of government's gonna have to figure it out. Hennepin County, you know, gets your property taxes, which is sort of thing you have to pay, and it gets money that's passed through other government entities and other taxes, mortgage registration taxes. You get a lot of fees that you in your industry pays. So they've got a better funding stream, even though Hennepin County's budgets can be down. But the state of Minnesota and city council, you know, their stuff varies a lot more. So they're gonna have to make better decisions, which I think is good. You know, they're gonna have to really be accountable. They're not gonna go on TV and go, let's defund or disband the police, and then see what happens. You're seeing what's happened. It's not good. You know, they're dialing it back. But, you know, it's really tough. You know, someone explained this to me in a stock market sense. You know, they never tell you when the market's over. It's just over, and it starts to slow down. In this case, it was a rapid thing. So I'm hoping that it comes back. I'm hoping that the political leaders, and there's an election next year for them, will figure this out. And if not, the voters or the people who are out there, because, you know, the 13 people really have a big sway of what goes on. and it affects capital decisions that you're making, and it's really tough to make those decisions. But I'll say, just as an advocate of the inner ring suburbs, where I've represented before, where I live, those are good places to make investments. You know, now that those comp plans are getting done, you know, I would tell people to reevaluate and take a look at those, and you know, be ready for what's going to happen in Minneapolis. But I'm not sure how much more money I'd be pouring into that scenario right now.
Yeah, and good point. I should, for those on the call, there's a map in the room. Dario is running for a seat that would represent Edina, Hopkins, Minnetonka, the surrounding communities around Lake Minnetonka, and then the northern portion of Eden Prairie. So certainly in that kind of first ring area of Hennepin County. And what are voters telling you? You know, talk a little bit about, I mean, this is maybe the oddest election. I know you pound the pavement and door knocked in the past. I mean, how are you talking to voters, and how are you communicating with them in a virtual world? I mean, it's got to be just, I don't know what the right word is for it.
It's interesting is the Minnesota word that we use here. So yeah, I don't know if when I got kind of talked into going back to give the political public space one more go, and I said, okay, I'll go ahead. It's nonpartisan. Of course, it became partisan and all this other stuff, and then COVID in the 2020 election, I knew was happening, so I didn't know that was going to happen, and I was going to be in it. In fact, when I look at the ballot now, I'm at the top of the ballot next to the president. It's the senators, everyone else goes down the far left side, so that makes it even more real. You can't avoid this race, but people still have to figure out what it is. You know, I do a little bit of Zoom stuff. I don't think I'm great on Zoom to the extent that I'm great live. I'm a little more visceral, a little more interactive. I don't miss door knocking either. I'm a business person, right? It's a very low return. You get kind of 2 out of 10. So at least if I'm emailing to you or texting or twittering or Facebook messaging, we're spending a lot. We're spending $150,000 in this race to communicate to people, and we do hear back. And I do go to selective, events and activities. So I feel like, having lived in Hennepin County for 50 years, having actually lived in Minneapolis, where actually none of my opponents in the primary had, and a lot of the issues people seem to talk about are Minneapolis-centric, because that's where a lot of Hennepin County services and safety net services are. Kind of teeters back a little bit when you get out to the suburbs. We're more interested in transportation and investments in housing, public safety, and property taxes. So it's interesting to sort of look at that, and that's the perspective I hear. Normally in public service, you hear from the activists, and the activists are not, typically business people or architects or whatever. They may have an issue that they care about, like the environment or education. But so you hear a lot from those groups, and I don't want to diminish that. It's important, and food insecurity is a huge deal. And I go and volunteer at a place called Veep. I funded one of my lead bonding bills, as you know, Tom, was the Second Harvest Heartland Food Shelf, which is the largest food shelf in the state of Minnesota, and worked with Andrew Zimmerman, a friend from the food business, on that. And we passed it the first session, which doesn't happen a lot, I understand. So I wanted to do things like that helped, and who knew that we were going to have this crisis? And when I go to the food shelf now to work, it's sad, and to see what goes on, and the need and the suffering that's going on in the suburbs and the exurbs in greater Minnesota. So we need to keep doing those things, but we still need to make it so you want to do business here, because you can shift. And I know people can run off to Florida and they can move their income. They can't move their assets quite as well. So you're still going to be paying Hennepin County property taxes or Ramsey or whatever county, but you can shift your income. So policy makers need to be conscious of that. That's always my point in talking to them. I say, hey, I'm here because I care. I'm just not a bomb thrower, just going to say this stuff and leave and not come back. I keep coming back and helping, but understand that this perspective is key. Because now with technology, you can shift it, and you can go in and out, and you're going to want to make people come to Minneapolis. It's what I said sometimes with my wife when we're having a disagreement. I would go, come on, we have to make each other want to go on a second date. We got to get to the third date, and that's what government needs to do with businesses, because it's just you get tired of being told you don't pay enough or you complain too much or whatever. And I'm just like, no, we pay a lot and we don't really complain enough. So we'll try to fix that paradigm. I'm inviting you guys to come down to Hennepin County and complain a lot, and I'll be your voice in your vehicle for that.
Well, one question came in online from this guy named Sean Smith, it was a good point. I didn't think about it as we were talking about transportation. We have a lot of development outside of the core of Minneapolis, and outside of maybe even Southwest Light Rail and light rail in general. Thinking specifically to Matt, down in Normandale Lakes, and kind of talk a little bit about transportation outside of Minneapolis, especially that impacts your district, and what the county should be doing or prioritizing, and what we could see in the next, transportation takes a long time, we all know that, kind of the next decade of transportation investments that are outside Minneapolis, and what you'd like to see done.
Yeah, and people are, finally excited about light rail. When you actually drive out to Eden Prairie and you see something that looks like the monorail, which I went to Disneyland as a kid and was always fascinated by the monorail. I do get, again, these are big investments, the decisions have been made. So I didn't even vote on it. It was kind of before my time. I was one of the few Hennepin County delegation that actually was still being supportive of it. And I remember talking to a Ecolab, or Ecolab, who lives in my neighborhood, and I said, Doug, can you explain to me how this makes sense? Because financially I'm struggling with it. And I get that the millennials and the Z generation want it, and I get all these other things that are sort of soft intangibles, and they're gonna wanna ride it. But he said, all I can tell you is that it will cost more to our region to not do it than it will to do it. I said, well, that makes sense. So we need those investments, we have to think long range. People can do the infill, but people are gonna wanna have it. Now COVID came, and people don't want to do a lot of things. This will eventually go away. We probably will have, if you listen to Bill Gates, and I do, we'll probably have another one. He talked about this 5 years ago. So we need to think ahead. Again, business people have to do this. Government people have to do this. Normal citizens have to be informed to know this. So we need to be ready for the next crisis. And in real estate, you're used to that, and you put capital away and all that. So in transportation terms, that means, being ready for the next technology, as well as the technology shifting. I mean, the automated car will be here someday. There's a lot of companies, and I've visited them when I was a state rep, that are making components for them. And so that's gonna shift it. So we still do need roads. We need to make those investments. I was happy to just, do my little road investing thing. I didn't spend a lot of time on that, just to make the 494 35W corridor better. Or all those things like that, because we still need to get the battery operated cars, whatever people want to call them, working, going, and buses and the automated. And so that last mile of transportation, I think, is the biggest one. And it's interesting to see some of the automated short, and they're low speed buses. I don't know if I want to get on a bus going 70 miles an hour with no one at the stick or wheel or whatever it is here. I think in airplane talk because I'm a pilot. But that short haul is going to be important for seniors. It could be important for workers. I mean, taking a scooter in Minneapolis off the bus down to Fagry. I'm like, how? I would say, I don't know, say what it would be. I could see you doing that maybe, but it just, that kind of stuff is a little unwily, but we need that last mile transportation. It's great to see, and that's a place where Hennepin County can play a role with Met Transit. They've got about $1 billion they spend there that the complaint is no one elects them, they just appoint them. But they do a good job once they're running the assets. We just need to see what those right investments are.
No, I agree. There's a proposal for a kind of a 394 flyover that will actually be on 494, and I think you hit on a key congestion, certainly that I drive all the time. I know many members do as well, and it's something it's pretty important. I know Andy McIntosh would be bringing it up if he was here today, and so I want to get that plug in. What are we not thinking about in relation to the Hennepin County that we might be able to help partner with you on going forward? And there's Hennepin County's budget you talked about is just enormous, and there's it's not something that NAIOP has engaged with recently as much as we probably should, and we'd like to try to find a way to partner with you should you be successful, and just talk what you think.
Well, I remember talking to Marion Green, who's the current, Hennepin County Commissioner Chair, and just having a conversation, and she was kind of wondering why I was running like a lot of people, and having been a state rep and a business person, and now I'm popping back into it. I said, well, this is an important unit of government to me, and part of it was on the social services piece, and maybe this is where businesses can plug in a little bit more, and the mental health piece, because it was a lead issue for me. I had a dad who was bipolar, and so I kind of saw what happened to him, and he was a lawyer and a judge and had his career derailed, and he was able to make it back, but so many people are not. When I read that 1 out of 10 juniors in Minnesota attempted suicide, that woke me up. And we all know one of those stories. I know, unfortunately, a few more because we have kids in high school at Minnetonka and Edina where people have taken their life. I can't imagine what the numbers are. for adults and people that are out of work and isolated seniors. The cost of mental health is a huge, huge multiplier, and it affects businesses. I mean, the productivity number, the last one I saw was $20 billion. So trying to deal with some of those social service issues that kind of either get dealt with in a hospital, a jail, or a morgue, you know, are things that businesses could play a role in. And it's in policies, and it's in interacting with groups, and it's gonna take someone like me, you know, the guy who looks like he should be talking just about property taxes, to maybe elevate that and take it a different way, and find ways where we can partner and have policies and programs that really make sense, and listening to the people who are going through that, and maybe designing workplaces as such so we can get productivity up, so we can get the resources that are there. So, you know, I'm trying to be that bigger voice to it, having maybe come from the Capitol. Maybe it's just my nature in general of wanting to bring people together. Might have a little bit to do with my background in the entertainment industry. So it's comedies. I'll tell a lot of people, I'll find a way to market it better, and that's what I want to do with government, and bring in those other voices. And that's the people that are paying for it, because we want to make sure you keep investing and people keep getting a return, because, you know, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to work out well.
Yeah, the spike in the correlation between mental health issues and the creation of the iPhone is startling if you're looking for a rabbit hole on the internet. But I can only imagine, you know, that there will be a second spike as relating to, you know, the work from home kind of environment and the isolation that it's caused for a lot of people and kids. It could be very scary, what's ahead of us. But Joe, you had another question?
Yeah, getting back to the office occupancy downtown, do you see a danger that the people that are staying at home have decided they really like working from home and they can do it, and so that there will be a big mass exodus of people staying home and not going back to work downtown? The so-called new normal?
The new normal, yeah. Well, I think we're sort of in that, and it'll be interesting to see where it sort of goes, and I look forward to re-engaging. I serve on the Minneapolis Chamber board, and certainly stay in touch with the Downtown Council. I know that they're concerned, and everyone, it's a little bit like when you have problems around your real estate, you don't really want to tell anyone about that, because you want people to still keep coming down, and it's, you know, it's just safe, it's just not safe for someone else, not you're fine. So, but it's all those, again, I'll call them the business support services. You know, you need to have the restaurants, you need to have reliable transportation. I guess you've got more parking options, that's the good thing. So you can get down there, there's an outside, you've got more space in your office.
Still costs us.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, those are the challenges that, you know, people are gonna have to sort of figure that out. But I think after a while, people really find out. I mean, it's a little bit like trying to lock down an economy and a people. And I say, you know, especially Americans, you know, there's something in our DNA, right? We were kicked out of all these other countries, at least my grandparents were. And they came from Italy and Norway in my case, and ended up here. So it's hard to do it. So we have to find a way where we can live with, you know, pandemic-like situations and do it safer to interact. But I can just tell that people are cooped up. They want to re-socialize and habitize. I mean, the worst thing you can do to a human is put them in solitary confinement, which is why we were working in criminal justice reform when I was there, to make sure we don't do things like that, because it's not good for your mental health. And so that's what's happening now. And my kids are older, thank God. You know, if I had a junior, or I'm sorry, I have a junior. If I had an elementary school kid, a middle school kid, it'd be a big challenge to be working from home. So people do need that relief, and that's the whole child care issue. That's another thing that's going to come up at the Capitol. We need to figure, this is one of the most expensive states to have child care and then go to work and make that calculation. And so I think that people are going to do it, they're just going to do it differently. And if I had that answer, you know, I'd be inventing an electric car and wouldn't be doing this, or something like that, something Elon Musk like. But I think we just need to be ready for it. I know we need to make it safer. We need to provide the social services, and we need to do everything we can to encourage our businesses to look at it. And I'm telling businesses down there, you have some of the highest hospitality and entertainment taxes in the country. So start to negotiate those down now, or expand the net, so you can cost that. Look at some of these regulatory environments. These restaurants are all still paying $9,000 for a liquor license. So, and I know that you still have expenses, but there's going to be a new normal for them. So think of that ahead of time. So I'm trying to encourage, in my spare time, Minneapolis to do those things, because I want them to succeed. I want them to be successful.
this may be a poor analogy. This may be a poor analogy, but I'm going to use the Supreme Court for just a moment because it does have a lot of turnover, small group, in for a long time. One or two people changing on that body can have a very dramatic change in future decisions or changes in policies or vision. The county board has some similarities, not a lot of turnover, small body. Can you just point out maybe one or two issues that have consistently been handled one way, but a change with one or two board members might cause a different direction to take place?
Good point, and that's what I try to tell people. You know, Minneapolis City Council is 13 people, so it's a bigger body, and they have half the budget. Hard to argue in terms of impact. Minneapolis certainly affects, it's 500,000 people, but it affects, you know, a group of maybe 2.5, or you know, Hennepin County is 1.2 million people. It's got twice the budget size and really, you know, more scope in terms of what it's doing, but it only has 7 members. So every once in a while, something's only one person's running them, but there probably should be more. And right now, the board has got more of a Minneapolis City Council vibe to it. It's a little more activacy, a little more impassioned post George Floyd for certain issues. That made sense. But yeah, 4 of the members are very progressive. So one of them is more Republican-y, Jeff Johnson, who ran for governor twice, so people know him. That's probably the only city or county commissioner that most people know. They don't usually know their own county commissioner. And they're sort of too centrist right now. This is more of a centrist sort of seat, and where Mike Opat was, who was involved in some important projects like the ballpark and other issues. So yeah, if you have someone who wins this seat that's a progressive, and that's what I'm running against, you will see that shift. You know, the Jeff Johnson territory will tone down. I'm not sure what's going to happen where Mike Opat is. So yeah, you'll see them make probably less, you know, transportation investments out this way, or less public safety investments. You know, they'll shift them to more social services. It's like what defund the police means. Doesn't mean get rid of it completely, it means just shift it. I'm for more adding to those things, like more CIT officers, let's do a better job. Hennepin County actually does a pretty good job running itself. The chief administrator for it, Lotus Edina, I should give them a shout out. They are one of the better run counties. It just, you know, they're in the social services safety net business. So it's a lot of, as another council member had said, or board member had said, you know, they manage misery. And that's not always, you know, pretty or easy. You know, they do make infrastructure investments. You know, 20% of what they're doing are capital investments. That is the stuff, by the way, that's being cut in this budget. That's why there's no levy. So the stuff that you want is sort of being cut. I want Hennepin County to be a bridge to a better life, right? We have enough walls, we have enough barriers. We need to figure out how to do that. And we, the new incoming board, and I need to be a part of that, I believe, to make that happen, instead of just always being a safety net and sometimes a magnet for problems. And that's the problem of, you know, having, you know, everyone sort of ultimately comes to Hennepin County, and Hennepin County gets sort of stuck having to pay for it. We're supposed to get money from the federal government, we do, and the state government. That'll be one of my jobs, is to call on Tom and ask people. They actually have a lobbying corps down there, and Tom knows those people, to make sure we get the money. So I think there may be missing that. You need to be a bipartisan person, and I think Tom will say that I was a painfully bipartisan person. But that's good, because you don't know who's in charge, Republicans or Democrats. We just want the money to match the mandate, and we need to do it at a federal level. And I'll ask my book club buddy, Dean Phillips, who I'm in a book club with, or Tom Emmer, or Ilhan Omar, who I served on a committee with. I'll ask them for more help. I'll just ask them to do their job, which is to give us the money you're supposed to. I'll just have to say it in a really nice, fancy way. Tom will help me with that. Or I'll buy him a drink.
What, you know, for a final question, wrap-up question that's totally not political, and you can have 30 seconds to think about what's appropriate if somebody's recording this online, but can you give us your best story from being a music venue owner and owning the Fine Line, and what you saw, or best act you saw, or some final thought from that regard?
Well, you put the right provisos on there, things that I should say that are not being recorded before November 11th or November 3rd. I don't know when the election's really over. And I saw a lot of amazing shows. You know, probably one of the coolest things I saw there was President Clinton, who came there when he was president. So hosting a president at your business is pretty neat. Soul Asylum actually warmed up for him. People thought he played a sax. I'm like, why would you want to see him play sax? You want Soul Asylum. And then Brian Layden He did like the Star Spangled Banner. He did a solo warm up, and that was cool. My favorite group is a group called Sonia Dada, which is kind of a hip R&B funky group out of Chicago, and they just rocked the place. But you know, and I left before she played. Lady Gaga saw her entourage come in, so she had the #1 and 3 song in the country, and she came and played, and you know, she just had quite a presence to her. And my last one was watching Sarah Bareilles. I usually would be there. I was like, because I was doing real estate stuff and had a family, and I would just hear people warming up. So I saw like Sarah Bareilles warming up and doing Otis Redding, Sitting by the Dock of the Bay. If you've heard that song, it's a very soulful, cool song, and she's just playing it on the piano. And I'm up there by myself, and I'm not thinking she's playing that for me, but it's just because I'm talking to someone. So a lot of big shows, and then these little shows, and then the political things, and you know, it all happened at the Fine Line, and God willing, after we get through this crisis, First Avenue is going to still be here, and they'll be bringing cool stuff down, and you'll have a reason to want to come to Minneapolis, and maybe we'll talk Carl or someone into doing that development project I talked about where the New French Cafe is. How cool would that be, developers that are out there? You could have the New French on the main level there, a yoga studio, a juice bar, connected to the C ramp and walk over to the Fine Line. I would live there. That would be great. So that's what I want to see on this.
There's a good final thought. Well, thanks to Dario for doing this, and we look forward to partnering with you. Thanks to everybody who connected online. We'll be back next month. I'm not sure the format yet, but look forward to meeting every month now through the legislative session, and meeting adjourned. Thanks.
Thank you.
One technical issue.
That was pretty